Welcome to Critical DMG, a podcast about two best friends who might have grown up but never grew out of their love for the Game Boy. We will be playing and reviewing every North American title released on Nintendo's original handheld console. This is episode 54. I'm Tony, and boy, was I not impressed with this ninja.
Okay, and I'm Jeff, and today we're talking about Ninja Boy. Before we get into that and start throwing shurikens, just a really quick call out. At this point, our 1-year Q&A special episode is live on our Patreon for free and paid members.
Yay!
So go check that out. Last time we'll mention it. With that, Tony, what is your immediate opinion on Ninja Boy?
Unfortunately, I'm going to go with no. I actually think there is a pretty solid asterisk in there, but no.
I'm also a no, and I feel bad about it,
Yeah.
but we'll get into that as we go. So can you give us the back of the box?
I can. Very short this time. A lot of the ones we've had recently have actually been pretty long and descriptive.
Mm-hmm.
This one is not.
Okay.
Ninja Boy. Anywhere, anytime, hilarious ninja action. The adventures full of mystery and excitement. Collect items to upgrade your power. Punches, kicks, and throwing stars. The items increase your power continuously. Defeat the enemies with various kung fu skills. Humorous enemies will appear one after another. Amusing attacks by the enemies will challenge you. Forceful monsters and sturdy fighters. Can you defeat the ultimate boss, Dragon Shogun?
Ooh.
And that's it. There's no, screenshot blurbs or anything. That's it.
Interesting, because the manual specifically says that you're trying to, I guess, save your girlfriend or save the princess or, kind of that whole trope. So I'm surprised that it isn't on the back of the box.
Yeah, the manual also mentions another really crucial piece of game information that we'll have to get into later.
Yes. We'll definitely touch on that. I don't know if I know exactly what you're talking about, but there are multiple things that we'll get into.
Mystery, just like the back of the box said.
This game released in November of 1990 and released by Culture Brain.
Mm-hmm.
They have multiple entries into this series.
Oh, yeah.
And from what I can tell, most of them are relatively comical or have some amount of comedy in the story, things like that. We don't see that much here, but I was surprised that the back of the box mentioned humorous attacks or amusing attacks because I didn't pick up on any of that, really. But I guess that's why the back of the box said that.
Let's put a pin in that. I do have quite a bit to say about the sprites and the presentation and things here, so we'll have to circle back around to that when we get to the aesthetic section. But yeah, this is Culture Brain. They made a lot of these. I will also get into that come quiz time. There's a little foreshadowing for you specifically, Jeff. I do have the cartridge for this game, but it's the Japanese version, so I would have Super Chinese Land. That's where this game is from as a series, is the Super Chinese or Super Chinese series in Japan. And so I have Super Chinese Land, although I did play Ninja Boy for the show, just for parody's sake.
And this game is not a port of anything. It's kind of bespoke for the Game Boy.
Right.
With that, I don't have anything else. Do you want to just get into the mechanics?
Yeah, it might take us a little while.
All right, let's do it. So this is a pretty straight up action game. The goal, defeat the Dragon Shogun, save Princess Ling Ling.
Sure.
Controls, I was going to say relatively simple, but kind of not. D-pad moves you around. A punches. The manual says B kicks, but what I really saw was it jumps, but then if you're moving, it'll jump and do a flip that also will attack enemies. And then if you're not moving and you jump and then push a direction on the D-pad, you will do a miracle kick, which also damages enemies. Maybe a little convoluted there, but those are more or less the controls. 8 worlds. Each one has 4 stages. Tony, did you defeat the Dragon Shogun? Did you go through all of the worlds? What was your gameplay like?
I didn't get very far, but one thing to note that I think is important, because it's not something that we have seen a lot here on the show, is that this game is, yes, it's an action game, but it is a top-down action game.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't really gotten that too much. One of the only other times really that I can think of was like Cosmo Tank, where you're going around a sort of arena, top down, left, right, that sort of a thing.
Mm-hmm. It kind of has a beat 'em up kind of feel to it.
Oh,
with how it controls and the perspective that you're looking at.
Oh, absolutely. And not only that, but in how you are doing your attacks and how you are using pickups to your advantage and things like that, it very much feels like a beat 'em up. Unfortunately, though, the real goal of the game is to defeat the Dragon Shogun by specifically collecting certain hidden items around the game.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have them, you cannot win.
Yeah, so that is really where my gameplay experience ended up. I originally played and I got to level 1-4. Took about 10 minutes and then I died and game overed.
Mm-hmm.
No continues, no passwords, nothing like that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
At that point, I was honestly done with the game. I was like, no, this is not great.
Mm-hmm.
Realized that I had only played for 10 minutes. Really, that was not a fair shake to the game.
Sure.
So I did what any gamer does and looked up cheat codes. And so I found a cheat that allows you to select any level you want.
Nice.
But more importantly for me, gave me 80 lives to start with.
Whoa.
So as opposed to the 4 lives to begin with,
right.
I started with 80. I made it to level 7-2.
Ooh, whoa.
That entire play session was around 20-25 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I spent over 10 minutes on 7-2.
Wow.
And I had no idea what I was supposed to be doing. I thought I was supposed to be hitting blocks into an enemy,
Mm-hmm.
because punching them obviously didn't work. I thought hitting blocks into it did, because I just luckily did that the first time and then another one of them appeared.
Uh-huh.
And so I was like, oh, okay, I do this enough times and then the door will open and whatever. No, it turns out I needed a certain number of items that I didn't have.
Uh-huh.
And so
there's nothing you can do.
I presume I was soft locked.
Yeah, you basically soft lock yourself. There's nothing you can do about that other than to restart.
And I guess this is a good point to mention. The way you progress through levels is, I think you kill a certain number of enemies and then the door will open.
You move through levels by defeating a certain number of enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's fine.
It doesn't tell you how many enemies you need to defeat, though.
Right. No, it doesn't tell you how many enemies you need to defeat, but if you were to just come into this game blind and just try your best to figure out what you were going to do to make the next level happen,
Mm-hmm.
it would make the most sense to try to fight the bad guys, No, they don't tell you how many you need to defeat, but it follows that if you just punch enough of them, eventually something should happen. That's all well and good, but the fact that the actual crux of every level is running around and just punching every block you can get your hands on, hoping that like the little magical bubbles will float out of them, and then punching those too.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the game actually turns into, because the bad guys never stop coming. They'll just keep spawning until you've killed enough of them, or you've left the level or whatever. But the blocks will keep respawning in too, even though you've already harvested what you need from them, and so you just keep punching the same ones and they keep respawning, and it's confusing, like, oh wait, did I already punch these? Did I miss these ones? Are they back? Like, I don't know. Like, it doesn't feel good, but at the same time, I found myself very kind of mindlessly having not the worst time.
Mm-hmm.
Walking through the levels and just punching the blocks to try and find stuff. The things that pop out of them are sometimes like power-ups, and it makes you throw like shurikens or like fireballs or, weird like boomerangs or something, and that's rewarding. I enjoy that. And sometimes there's a staircase that leads you to a warp or a bonus level or whatever. So the destructible objects that you're trying to purposely destroy to find these secret hidden game-winning required items also give you enough just like fun points and hidden things that it's not the worst way to just while away your minutes, walking around and punching these blocks and seeing what comes out. But I think the mashing of those two things doesn't really go together here. I found myself constantly frustrated punching the blocks, trying to find whatever I was supposed to be finding, and then also dealing with a bunch of enemies that are swarming on the screen, because you can't really do both at the same time. So you have to sort of spend some time punching blocks and then other time fighting enemies.
And if you defeat too many enemies and the door opens,
they get faster.
Move faster.
Uh-huh.
And you're also dealing with the sound, which we'll obviously get into later.
Oh, yeah, we will.
I would say my initial thought on this game was, what is going on?
Very much so.
And then I thought I had handle on it. And then my final thought, once I closed the game after that 7-2 level, was still, what is going on? So I agree. There's a lot of hidden stuff. There's a lot of mechanics that are going on that the game doesn't necessarily tell you. You have to go to the manual, and the manual will tell you things like the enemy that I was stuck on was the magician. And it does tell you you'll need the white luck star, white scroll, and the sword to defeat them.
Right. Whatever that means.
Cool. That still means very little to me, even after playing the game and looking up different guides and stuff like that.
Everything here is very obtuse.
Yeah, it's just, I want there to be more here, but I feel like this is potentially a case of the whole is less than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
And I still don't know what's going on in the game.
If you did not have the resources at hand to make sense of what the game wants from you, I cannot imagine many people having a good time with this one at all. Mechanically, yes. All you're doing is moving top down, left to right. Like, there's no diagonal movement. It's just orthogonal. And you're punching, and you can jump, and you can jump over obstacles. And there's even a little special kick move. Like Jeff said, that miracle kick actually works out pretty nicely. It pretty much scissors through anything that it touches, which is really nice.
And it allows you to move, I think, probably 3 tiles versus a normal jump is 1 tile.
Yeah, you could go up slopes and things that a normal jump would not let you go. Movement stuff here and your attacks and things are actually pretty good. There's a lot of times where, especially the more base enemies that don't have projectile attacks, even the ones that can jump and do their own kicks and things like that, it almost feels, very much like a beat 'em up, where you're just playing kind of a footsies game and trying to get within range without them punching you, and then you punch them, because I don't think we've said this yet, but everything kills you in one hit, which is also phenomenal.
That was going to be my next big topic, is that I know I just said this recently, but that is probably one of the most frustrating mechanics that I've dealt with on the show.
It really makes it not a beat 'em up game. If the enemies were still dying in one hit, or even at 2 hits if they were stronger or whatever, that would still be fine. But the fact that you are gone in a single hit, no matter what it is that gets you, is really obnoxious.
Yeah, you only start with 4 lives.
That was my next point.
There's no continues.
Nope.
There's nothing. There's no passwords or anything. And it's not even just the enemies. If you fall into water or fall into pits, which sometimes the hitboxes aren't great on if you're on the pit tile or on the ground tile.
Yep.
You fall into those quite a bit, and they all take a life that you don't have that much of. And while you do collect more throughout and you can find more, it's not plentiful enough to make it, in my opinion, feel good as a game, because you lose them so easily.
Oh, it doesn't even matter. I found them to be very plentiful. You get a new extra life every 5 of the little bonus E icons or whatever it is that you pick up.
Oh, okay.
There's a bonus game that you can go in where the icons are just kind of endlessly scrolling across the screen from the corners, and you're just punching them to try and earn enough to get extra lives. I found one of those rooms, I'm not even kidding, in every single level I played just about. And I walked away with at least 1 or 2 extra lives every time I did it, and it never mattered. I still got completely chewed through by Usually enemies with projectiles, like the guy that shoots the rifle at you is obnoxious. The like trident or fork wielding guy is really annoying. Between those things and little enemies that don't have like a hitbox or something and kill you no matter what you do, all of the stage hazards and stuff, like, yeah, there would be times where I would back to back lose like 3 or 4 lives in what felt like the same breath. Like I wouldn't even have really moved from the space that I respawned in before I was killed again.
You respawn pretty quickly, so there's that. And you do have a few iframes, it seems like, once you respawn, but it just does not feel good. Like, that's why I found a cheat that gave me 80 lives. The game felt a lot better when I didn't care about if I died.
Oh, I'm sure.
I think I went into 7-2 with probably 20 to 30 lives left out of the 80.
Wow.
And then I ended up probably losing 20 or so lives. I think I ended with like 5 lives left before I was like, I'm out of here. I literally don't think I can beat this level. So
it really feels like they don't want you to beat it. I know that we've said this before about like arcade games and how the difficulty was artificially inflated sometimes in order to make people have to stick around and chew through quarters and stuff. This game series started in arcades, and even though this is like an original Game Boy game, it's not a port, but it's still basically the same thing. Like, it's still mechanically the same kind of game that the arcade game was. It's mostly just missing, like, 2-player option. But it really feels like they did not think in any way how to adapt the mechanics for the Game Boy. There's no passwords, there's no continue. Everything still feels like it is trying specifically to grind you down and to get you to, you know, put another quarter in the machine, because that will guarantee you the continue that we're not getting here. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I guess I only have 2 things left in the mechanics. We've talked a lot about these items that you have to find. The manual has like 2 or 3 pages on different items that you can pick up. There are progression requirement items.
Yeah.
But there are swords, a hammer, magnifying glass that lets you see certain things, different types of shoes, scrolls, stars. You really need to look at the manual to know what all of these things do. And after playing it, picking up a number of these items, I still don't exactly know what they do or how to use them. So,
oh, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. The last thing I have, which is something that you've already mentioned in passing, is the way that I got to 7-2 was not playing through all of the worlds, all of the different stages. It was going through warp pipes.
Yep.
As you're breaking these boxes, occasionally you'll find stairs, and they go to either a bonus level or a level with warp pipes. At this point, I didn't know that I needed specific items, so I guess that's why I soft-locked myself.
What a thing to have in there. Like, warps that take you to further stages, but if you miss an item from warping, you can't beat the game? Well, what?
Yeah, and apparently there's a warp in the last level, World 8, that will let you select what level you go to. But if you're stuck on 7-2 and it's impossible for you to win, then like, what are you supposed to do?
I went into a warp room and I think it spat me out in the same level that I was in. So I'm actually kind of curious if some of them are like fake or like prank warps or whatever, kind of like Mario had done in the past.
Maybe. So the ones I went into had 2 options. One that was earlier, one that was later. I always chose the one that was later because I wanted to get through the game. And I guess it ended up hurting me in the long run. But there are warp pipes, but I guess if you're playing the game, use them with caution.
I don't have anything else. I am ready for the ad break. We've actually gone a bit longer here on the mechanics of this one than I thought. But honestly, there's kind of a lot here to get into just because of how obtuse things are.
Agreed.
I have a lot to say about the aesthetics too, I think, so let's move on.
Let's do it.
Ad break.
I'm sorry, Tony, but some of these older Game Boy games are just bad.
Oh, right, like you could do any better?
You know what? I probably could.
Yeah? Then do it. Make your own Game Boy game.
Tony, this isn't the 90s. I am not learning assembly.
Not necessary. Just use GB Studio. GB Studio is easy to use game building software that lets you make games for your favorite retro gaming rectangle. With versions available for Windows, Mac, and Linux, it's never been easier to make a game for the Game Boy. And GB Studio's multiple project modes means you can develop for the original DMG, the Super Game Boy, or the Game Boy Color. Using a drag-and-drop style of visual scripting means you don't even need any prior programming knowledge to get started. And the best part is, your work can be built and exported as a fully playable Game Boy ROM, ready for any emulator or flash cart you choose. Learn more or download GB Studio for yourself at www.gbstudio.dev. You know, the original Game Boy might not have been internet connected, but we sure are. So if you'd like to reach out to us, you could find us on Blue Sky at criticaldmgpod.bsky.social, or you could email us at criticaldmgpod@gmail.com, and either of those will get to us faster than you would expect for people who are stuck on tech from the 1990s. And we're back. The music here for me was very hit and miss. I liked all of the little jingles from like beating a level or the transition from one stage to the next, and all of the shorter tunes I thought were very cute.
Mm-hmm.
The music that's inside the game from level to level, apart from the bonus room, which I did like that song, most of the rest of them I didn't particularly care for, and some of them I outright disliked.
Always sad when the title screen doesn't have music.
Oh yeah, very quiet.
Before doing the show, I don't think I would have ever particularly thought about that, but I did like, that each level kind of has its own music. That was kind of nice. I found them fine. They weren't, in my opinion, offensive or annoying per se. And maybe that's because there are certain things that are very not fine in the soundtrack. We mentioned opening the door earlier.
Yep.
And not only does it make the enemies faster, the sound that starts playing.
It's like a dinner bell over and over and over again or something.
Yes.
Awful.
This bell or chime that's just repeated super fast, super grating.
And it never stops.
Exactly. It never stops. Once you open the door until you leave the level, it does not stop. I don't think I can overstate how bad that is. It was just...
It's awful.
Very, very bad.
Having that in there, like, obviously I would much prefer the sound to be better, but it being in there isn't a bad thing. You know, if the whole point is you killed enough bad guys that it's time for you to skedaddle and get out through the door, then stopping the music and playing this alarm sound is the right way to go about that.
Exactly, because sometimes you can't see the door from where you are. So having an audio cue, I think, makes a lot of sense.
Sure. And again, they don't show you how many enemies you need to defeat anyway. So it's definitely a useful reminder that you're done. It's time to move on to the next level, whatever. The problem, though, is that's only half of what you're doing. If you are supposed to be breaking these blocks and finding these, special game required, again, I cannot emphasize this enough, required to beat the game items. Well, if you're fighting enemies off in order to prevent them from beating you up while you're looking at all of these blocks that all look the same to try and find these items, and then that sound is going off because you finally nailed the last guy, but you haven't finished the blocks, it means that you have to listen to that sound the entire time. And it's a nightmare. It is one of the worst sounds that we have had to deal with in recent memory.
100% agree. I get why it's there. It could have been done, I think, infinitely better. So
right. I don't know. It's just a bad sound, and because of how the game uses it in the places that it does, it just makes it so much worse.
Agreed. How do you feel about the sprites in the game?
I actually am quite fond of them.
Okay.
I think that they are not particularly diverse.
Mm-hmm.
There are some that are sort of like recolors or like darker colorations of existing enemies, which isn't a problem. I don't have an issue with recolors or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Just that, like, you see a lot of the same enemies for a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
It tends to feel like there isn't really a very large cast and crew, but this is the first game that we've had definitely of this action type, because we've had games with big sprites and stuff before,
Mm-hmm.
but the bosses in this game are enormous. The sprites in the game are already very big. Like you're talking about sprites that are probably like 16 by 32 or even 32 by 32, depending on the size of the regular enemy on screen.
Yeah.
The bosses are like twice that easily.
Yeah, I only saw Unigon, I think, like the big mummy-looking monster thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was giant.
It's so big.
Mm-hmm.
It's big enough that you can't even see all of it on screen at the same time if you are too far away from where it's walking.
Yeah.
We've never seen anything like that before.
Yeah. I would say for the most part, it handles relatively well.
Right.
There were definitely times that I saw sprites that just disappeared.
Yeah, the worst for me was the projectiles disappearing.
Yeah, that, and there's a little fireball enemy thing.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically on 7-2, I had times where the magician would pop in, shoot out its, projectiles.
Mm-hmm.
There would be a few fireballs on screen as well, and they would cut out. And that did lead to a few deaths that,
Oh, yeah.
because I couldn't see where they were. So, that's never fun when that happens.
Right.
But for the most part, it was okay. I didn't experience too much of that. I don't know.
It's honestly a little impressive.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, for what's going on and the sprites that are on screen and how much you are still able to do freely around the whole map. You can kind of go off the left or right hand side and it just pops you back on the opposite end.
Pac-Man style.
And for as much as they fill every level with all of these destructible blocks and these big arches for the doorway that you're supposed to leave, literally mountains of enemies. There are sometimes double-digit numbers of enemies on screen at the same time. It's actually pretty impressive that the game doesn't ever really slow down.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't really bring it up in the mechanical section. There's never really any slowdown. The problem is there's just too many sprites that are stacking at the same time and in the same like small area that they just start to disappear. For me, it wasn't the little like, you said they're fireballs. I thought they were clams.
Oh.
but like, it wasn't those. It was the like big guys with the like forks that they like launch at you a very short distance.
Yeah. I think there are little clam things. Apparently the fire skull only comes out if you've stayed in the stage for too long.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That makes sense as to why it was killing me in 7-2.
I was thinking of a different bad guy then.
Yeah.
I was thinking of a different enemy.
I just learned that right now, live, by looking at the manual. And I will say, the depictions in the manual are adorable. I love them so much.
They are cuter in the Japanese manual, I will say.
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean, they're the same illustrations, essentially. It's not like we usually get where they do kind of like a different style or something between the manuals. I think that the manual that we have, they look kind of like photocopied or something, and they don't have as much color or detail, but they're still the same pictures.
I could see that.
They are very cute. They do a very good job of describing the enemies and, your character and the setting and stuff like that. There are some like cute little action poses that they have in there. And I think that it does a good job. I think overall the manual does a pretty good job. It's kind of unfortunate that it's one of those cases where without it, you really are sort of stuck.
I was about to say, this is one of the maybe first times, if not very rare times, that the manual is almost required to play the game successfully.
Right.
And we haven't seen that, like I said, a whole lot, if ever, on the show.
Yeah, like we've said that the manual is definitely something that you would want to have on hand, or at least have access to for a lot of these games, just because it helps explain some things or whatever. But I don't think, since maybe something like Qbillion, I can remember a game that it's been like, I don't know, if I handed this game to somebody at random, they would know what to do.
Oh, definitely not.
And the manual does a really good job, of helping you figure that out.
Mm-hmm. So we haven't had the opportunity to do this recently, I suppose. What is your favorite enemy? And we're going to go based off the enemies in the manual, not the sprites. I guess you can talk about the sprites if you want, but specifically enemies in the manual. What is your favorite?
I thought about this because we had the DuckTales episode and we didn't do favorite sprite in the DuckTales episode. So my sincerest apologies to 10, because she definitely should have been able to cast her vote on that one. 10, if you're listening, blue sky comment, favorite DuckTales enemy sprite, maybe. The boss depictions are really cute. I do love that there's just a mummy here. I don't really know.
Yeah.
Why? Again, Cat Trap also had inexplicable mummies just for no real reason. I don't really know what that's about, but I love that there's a mummy here.
Why not?
I don't know. It sounds like you have a clear favorite.
I have two favorites. So one, QP Fox. I never saw this in game, but it's just this little nine-tailed fox that you would expect. The depiction in the manual, they've got their hands up.
Right. Yeah.
I guess they're disguised as the player in the game, so I just think that's cute. And then I also quite like Mr. Coffin. Not in the game as much, because it's kind of an annoying enemy, but the depiction in the manual is just this little cube with two eyes, but they're vertical, and I don't know, it's just weirdly charming in my opinion.
Yeah, it's actually also one of the only enemies that doesn't kill you.
Yeah, it just kind of holds you.
Yeah, it just holds you in place for the other enemies to get to you.
Which makes sense for a coffin.
Right, exactly. I also really love Mr. Coffin. The princess cat, I really love. That's just such a cute little goober. But I think I got to give it to Mr. Coffin. There's something about that design.
Right?
I want to steal that. I'm not going to lie.
Anyway, I don't have anything else for the aesthetics. Do you have anything, or do you want to go into our wrap up?
No, I'm ready to wrap up.
All right. For me, I think it's pretty concise. I think the number of lives and how much you die is really what makes me struggle, especially without any sort of password or continue system. That combined with the just unclear direction of the game in general make it not sit very well with me. And again, I think it's one of those, I think there's a lot of interesting things here. I think it's the first time we've seen what is relatively common in a lot of new games, where you have to have progression items to complete the game. That is something that we see quite a bit, in Zelda games, in those sorts of things. But Zelda franchise does a lot better job of explaining that and not soft locking you if you don't have them in the wrong time. So the parts are interesting, but when you put them all together, it makes them not very good.
As a developer, I really like a lot of the parts that are here. This is something that I look at while playing and really wish that I could fix up. Just a little bit. Like, just a couple things that I feel would really make a big difference in this game and my overall feelings about its difficulty and its obtuse quality and vagueness and that sort of stuff. But as we have it here, it's just too difficult to recommend as anything more than just, I don't want to say a novelty. I don't feel like that's the right word. It's very flow state, I guess, is a good word, just for lack of a better one.
I could see that.
And I can see that being a way to enjoy this game, especially if you don't take it too seriously and you don't really plan on scouring the different stuff, to reach the areas at the end. You don't take it, too big of a deal if you like soft lock yourself.
Yeah.
I can understand that there might be some interesting things to see here, but I still don't know that it's worth the squeeze. You know what I mean?
I would agree.
I
Yeah.
would definitely not recommend it. It's not worth the batteries to me for that. My game developer brain says, yes, there are things here that could be worth picking apart, but that's not really what the angle of the show is. And so for the recommendation of a player, I would say no.
Yeah, I guess I would say unless you are the type of gamer who wants to really sink time into and really learn the ins and outs of a somewhat obscure game. Otherwise, I would say, yeah, it's probably not worth it.
Did you look up a speed run?
There are none.
No?
Yeah, there are.
I could see this being a speed run game.
Mm-hmm.
The levels don't change. So if you know where all of the items are hidden, I could see being able to path the game out and taking advantage of the different warps to make the game over very fast. I could see this being a speed game because that kind of like memorization of where all of the things are in a game that doesn't change them randomly on you. Like, yeah, they might not be in the same block, but it's going to be in the same like level probably.
Yeah.
If you could path that out, I could see this being a compelling speed game. A lot of speedrunners love janky, obscure, like not so high tier stuff. So I don't know. There could be something here, but I would still not recommend it.
As far as I can tell, speedrun.com, you search for Ninja Boy, iNinja for the Game Boy Advance comes up, but
Okay.
this game specifically is not there. So I tried, but it wasn't there. I think that wraps everything up relatively nicely.
It does.
And so I think that means it's quiz time.
Quiz time.
All right, so I'm currently at an 82.3%.
Yes.
Been hovering around that for a bit. Let's hope that Ninja Boy's quiz treats me well.
I have nothing witty to say. I'm just going to jump right into it. Ninja Boy quiz. Question 1. You might not think it from what we just played here on the show, but the Super Chinese series of games that our Ninja Boy was part of has actually gotten quite a few entries spanning the 8 and 16-bit systems. If you exclude remakes or compilation releases, there are 13 total games by my count, all bearing the Super Chinese title, spread across the arcade, NES, Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, and Super Nintendo systems.
Wow.
However, we will not be seeing nearly all of those here on the show, and not just because they weren't all on our favorite rectangle. How many games in this series will we actually play and talk about here on Critical DMG, including this one? Is it A, 1, B, 2, C, 3, or D, this whole episode was a dream and we actually didn't play any of them?
Oh, D, obviously. I'm comfy cozy in my bed.
Critical Dream and G.
That's another, I guess, spin-off or something. I think it's 2. I want to say as I was going through the master schedule, for some reason I was like searching this, and I want to say I remember we get a Ninja Boy 2, but I don't think I saw a third one. So I'm going to go with 2.
Well, good, because it is 2.
Let's go.
It was B.
Vague prior knowledge.
Right. There are multiple Super Chinese games that get released for the Game Boy over the course of the 1990s, but only 2 of them made their way to us here in North America. Super Chinese Land 1 and 2 were brought to us and just renamed Ninja Boy 1 and 2, but we never got the third game in the trilogy, or the fighting games that were made using the characters from the series, which is a genuine shame because they're actually pretty solid.
Oh, yeah?
I have played the Super Chinese Fighter. I believe they're called Super Chinese Fighter GB, and they're actually pretty solid for fighting games on the Game Boy. So I will be very glad to get to those on DMG in Japan someday.
Interesting. 1 for 1 so far. Doing well.
Yep, pretty good. Question 2. Let's actually talk about one of those previously mentioned Game Boy Advance titles. There were 3 Super Chinese releases in total on the GBA, but 2 of those were just compilations of earlier games in the series. They were just called like Super Chinese Advance 1, 2, 3, and it was a compilation cart.
As you do.
The other one was an original puzzle game, at least as far as I could tell original, using the Super Chinese cast and theming called Super Chinese Labyrinth. It was rather small and not as visually impressive as what would be usual for the Game Boy Advance at the time, and this was probably why it was actually sold on a twin cart with another game that I am 1000% more interested in than Super Chinese Labyrinth. What might this mysterious other game be about? A. Some kind of licensed anime tie-in. B. A weird and unintuitive card game. C. Bugs. Or D. There doesn't need to be a fourth answer because I already gave you the only correct one.
You know, my initial thought was kaiju, and then you said bugs, and I'm like, oh, obviously bugs.
Yeah, obviously it's bugs. Of course it's bugs. It's C. Bugs. The GBA cartridge sold as part of Culture Brain's Twin series, and it contained both the Super Chinese Labyrinth game, but the larger of the 2 games on the cart, and the one taking up basically like the whole box, like the Super Chinese information was just kind of like in a corner of the box. The main draw, I guess, was a game called Konchu Monster Oja Kateisen, which I would translate as Insect Monster Championship of Kings. While I couldn't source any real information from any of the English-speaking web, really, the Japanese footage of the game that I watched shows a fairly story-heavy simulation game about a young child finding and battling bugs, like with bugs in their small town. There are actually quite a few of these games on the Game Boy Advance and even on Nintendo DS, like these kind of bug-raising, bug-catching sims. Like, there's actually kind of a bunch of these on there, but that's not our show.
All right, 2 for 2.
You're doing good. Now, gotta bring it home. Question 3. Our protagonist for Ninja Boy was a solo hero named Jack, out to rescue his girlfriend, Princess Ling Ling of Ninja World.
That sentence definitely makes sense.
Right. We definitely did not get into the why is it about ninjas when they're from China and Kung Fu. Obnoxious. Anyway, while this doesn't change all that much from the original Japanese version of the game, the very first game in the Super Chinese series had a little variation on things that I think is fun to talk about. Its 2 protagonists in that game were named after martial arts film stars. But rather than give you a handful of options to choose from, Jeff, in a first of its kind, I want you to fill in these blanks.
Ooh. I'm scared, but also intrigued.
I'm going to give you the sentence, and then you have to fill in the blanks, okay?
Okay.
The 2 characters in the arcade game Super Chinese / Kung Fu Heroes are named after Blank Lee and Jackie Blank.
Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan.
Right, it is Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan. Good job.
So I was like, if it is not these people, I am going to be quite in a bad place. But I was like, Jackie Chan, Jack, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, that's so like I'm not entirely sure what either of them study or studied. I don't know if it's Kung Fu, so I just went with martial arts. But yeah, it is Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan, so it's not spelled exactly the same. The Jackie in the game is with a Y instead of an IE in the North American version, but the idea is still the same, that they're like Kung Fu masters, quote-unquote Kung Fu masters, and they're named after these two very famous martial artists. And while Bruce Lee was unfortunately already a decade in passing by the time the original Super Chinese arcade game released in 1984, it was never really uncommon to see characters made out to be analogs of him. And we've already seen one of those here on the show because we played Fists of the North Star 10 Big Brawls for the King of the Universe, and Kenshiro is just like literally Bruce Lee, so...
Yeah. Interesting. Well, 3 for 3. Cannot complain about that. I'm at 82.7% now, so very slowly climbing up, I suppose.
How do you like the new question format for the new year of the show?
Again, scared but intrigued. This one I feel was good because I knew the answer, but I'm concerned for future uses.
I'm opening my doors. That's
Yeah.
all. I'm opening my doors.
With that, can you remind us what the listener question from last week was?
I can. The audience question from Ishido, The Way of Stones, was about how the company Publishing International, who was actually the developer of the game, actually published something in earlier years, and it was about their 1988 game Pharaoh's Revenge, which took heavy inspiration from a similar software title that came out a few years earlier, and one that we have covered a port of here on the show. Jeff, did you ever get any clues or look it up or anything? I guarantee if you had watched a video footage of Pharaoh's Revenge, you would know immediately.
I'm just gonna go with I don't know, actually. I was gonna guess a random game, but yeah, I'm just gonna go I don't know. It's a puzzle game, probably, I would assume, but yeah, what was it?
Lode Runner.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense.
So if you swap out the piles of gold laying around in Lode Runner for golden onks tucked away in the ceilings of the level, and instead of the ability to dig holes, the protagonist has ladders that you can extend and stack on top of each other to climb. They're basically the same. The way that you move, the way that the enemies try to follow you around, the way that levels are set up and in their verticality, the influence is essentially undeniable. I watched some footage of Pharaoh's Revenge, and like I said, if you watch the same, you would definitely see the Lode Runner influence. It looks kind of interesting. I do like that single screen Lode Runner more than the one that we got on the Game Boy, so this was appealing to me kind of in that way. So for anyone else, a Lode Runner fan or just people who like, that kind of old software, there you go. Pharaoh's Revenge, 1988.
I feel like that story makes more sense, but what's our listener question for this week?
Listener question for Ninja Boy. Bruce Lee sadly was not around to be making movies in the 1990s when Ninja Boy came out. And while Jackie Chan was definitely making movies at that time, he was actually involved in other areas of filmmaking, such as action director or producer. But out of 4 movies that he was involved with during 1990, only one of them was in an acting role. In a Taiwanese-Hong Kong co-production, Jackie Chan plays a prisoner named Da Tui in the Kevin Chu directed film titled What? Jeff, I cannot possibly imagine that you have any idea.
0%. 0%. So we'll have to just find out the answer to that next week.
That's right.
Thanks for listening to Critical DMG. If you would like to support us further, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/criticaldmgpod. Join us there for monthly newsletters and extra content. Otherwise, please leave a review wherever you get your podcasts, and maybe recommend us to your friends or anyone else you might think that would like the show. It really helps us out, and we appreciate it. That brings us to the end of Ninja Boy. So much potential, just missed the mark a little bit.
Our first episode after year 1.
Yeah, our first year 2 episode, so...
Not a new season, just a new year. Just putting it out there.
Yep. And join us next week when we talk about Serpent. I'm hoping this is like a snake game, but I guess we will see.
Yeah, we haven't gotten Snake yet on the Game Boy.
Mhm.
You could play Snake on a calculator. There should be Snake on the Game Boy. Although I say that, but I really hope it's not just straight up Snake. I hope that they do something interesting with it.
We'll see. Join us next week and figure out what Serpent is.
All right. Until then, bye, everybody.
Goodbye.